Wait, what? Was it supposed to be Untitled?
I don't know what we're doing.
3, 2, 1.
Alright, welcome everybody to another episode of the Do Hard Things podcast. I'm your host, Jay Teagues. I have with me today Lacey Priestmeyer, Scotty Hobbs, Gabby Hobbs, and Greg Cruz. And today we're talking about climbing the Middle Teton, our adventure this last Wednesday, 2 days ago. And basically our one-day Do Hard Things adventure, the first annual Do Hard Things adventure.
It's now a tradition.
We're just grateful to be alive. You're lucky that you're watching this because we didn't know if we were going to get off the mountain today. We're going to share with you the reason why we went on the adventure, what we learned, the lessons learned, some of our scariest moments, some of our biggest takeaways, and just talk about the adventure that we had together. So this is going to be a little bit different of an episode because we have we have 5 people here. So I apologize up front if the audio quality sounds a little bit different. We're obviously not in the studio, but the content's going to be great. So we're going to start off with this question. Scotty, you're the mastermind behind this. Why do you hate us so much? Why did you invite us all the way here to nearly kill us?
You know, I've been taking this hike for 10 years, so I forgot how difficult it was. I knew there was like 6,000 something feet climb in 6 miles, and I invited Greg. We've been talking about doing a hike like this for a long time, coming up to Idaho for years. So finally we're just like, we're going to do this, and as we got it planned, I was like, this is going to be something hard. Like, who should I invite? And I was like, Jay Teagues, Do Hard Things. So I sent you a text, and that's how it all got started. So I'm glad you guys came out.
Oh, it was awesome. I remember it was like out of nowhere. It was like it was a Wednesday, and I guess just to let everyone know, I was having a morning where I was going out for a ruck, and I'm in a space where I was just kind of like confused, maybe a little bit upset about a couple things. That in my morning hike, I prayed to God. I'm like, I need something. I need a sign from you. I need something. I'm at a crossroads in my life, and I need like a subtle hint or something because I am not the wisest person. Sometimes you got to smack me in the head. I need a challenge. And I don't know what it was, but the very next day you texted me like, I don't know why I was compelled to ask you to come out here and do this thing, but would you be willing to come out? And I'm like, you know what? I actually had leave. I was actually off and talked to Lacey. I'm like, you know what? We can make this work. And there's been moments in my life where I didn't do the thing because there's always resistance, right? There's always a reason. Well, I got to work. I got all these obligations. But what I've learned is when these hell yeah opportunities come up, you got to take it. And so Lacey and I we looked up flights, and we were like, we can make this work, and we need to come out here and do this. I don't know what it is about this, but we need to come and have this adventure with Scotty and Greg and Gabby and do this thing together. And so here we are. We flew in, and we showed up, and we did this thing together. So
we did it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Did you just say thank you?
Yeah.
Thank you for almost killing us.
So the Grand Tetons, am I saying that right? The Tetons, they're located just west of Jackson Hole, and it's an epic, beautiful, majestic mountain range that stretches 40 miles, and we decided to climb the Middle Teton. Now, why the middle?
The Middle Teton is one of the Tetons that you can climb without ropes. So it's extremely challenging climb, but it's one that you can climb without ropes. It's one, someone guided me up it over 10 years ago, so I sort of knew the path of how to get up there, so we chose that one. And I just remember when we went up there, just the views at the top. I do remember saying the last time we came down, like, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah.
But 10 years passed, and I must have forgot what the pain was like. But I kind of had a desire to take, originally started with Greg and then moved on to inviting you guys. Just that feeling of taking someone else to experience what I experienced when I did it.
So it's a 12.7 mile round trip, and I was expecting, I've done some 14ers, I've done some hikes. I've hiked Pikes Peak, which is very challenging. I thought it was a hike. It's called a hike. In all trails, it's called a trail and a hike. But it was not a hike. It was a mountaineering adventure. It was. That I was not prepared. All right, we're back. We're live. What were we talking about?
You were talking about the height and how many miles it was.
Yeah, and you compared it to a hike.
Yeah, so last Wednesday I went on a hike with the youth of the church, and it was 15.1 miles round trip. And I have on my iPhone it tracks your steps, and it was 38,000 steps. And we did that in 6 hours total hike time. I checked my stats when we got back, and we did in 19 hours, and we'll get to why it took 19 hours, we did 42,000 steps. So it was only 4,000 steps more, the distance of this hike. However, it was hours longer to kind of show you how hard, how slow we had to move through some of that terrain.
Yeah, as a cyclist, an endurance hiker, and runner, like I feel like I'm very in tune with time and distance. But just to the sheer vertical climb and all the bouldering we did, it was very difficult to see time and space. Like there were moments where, I mean, we hardly moved at all. Like
and it would be like 20 minutes, 30 minutes at a time, and when you would check the map, it's like you haven't even moved a tenth of a mile.
Yeah, a tenth of a mile, literally.
That.
And you later in the day when we're exerting so much energy, like every step just, I don't know, it just felt like it was never going to end.
That is true.
So, do you want to talk about, I guess, the drive up there and the night before?
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So, just getting there was an adventure. We left out in the afternoon. It took us we're in Idaho Falls now. It took us about 2.5 hours to get there.
Yeah, about 2.5 hours. We've never camped up there or anything, but we decided instead of waking up at 1:30, 2 a.m. to do the hike, that we would drive up there, pitch a couple tents, sleep for the night. We drove straight into the park and soon realized that we can't tent camp in there, so we drove around. We even got to the point where we asked in a lodge, like, do you have any room? No room there. But the guy there gave us some advice. Hey, take a 30-minute drive out of the park to some BLM land, and you guys can set up a tent there. So we drove out. So our drive took about 3.5, 4 by the time we pitched our tent. Set up tents, and then set our alarms. It
was late. And just a tactical tip for those that are out there. I'm not endorsed by iOverlander, but there's an app that we use called iOverlander. So if you're looking for campsites and adventuring, it's a great tool to use. And that's where we found a campsite. So it was on BLM land. It was dispersed camping. There were some other campers out there. Pretty safe place. And yeah, we set up camp. And I think what time we get set up? About 10:30? 11 o'clock?
10:30.
Yeah.
It was pretty late. But we had headlamps on. We got our tent set up, and we bedded down for the night.
Without pads, on rocks.
Without pads, on rocks.
Yeah.
So we didn't sleep well, but we got a little bit of sleep. And we woke up, what was the wake-up time?
I did 3:50 was the time my alarm went off.
Yeah, I think it was right around 4 o'clock. We heard you guys kind of scrambling in the car. So
3:50.
we woke up at 4, so we got maybe 5 hours. That was the total time that we expected to sleep, but with that, probably only a couple hours of solid sleep within there. So we kind of woke up kind of tired. Woke up, I had some sushi the night before. Which
Do we want to talk about it?
Did not take to it well. And sometimes, it's difficult to utilize the bathroom. And I remember waking up, falling out of the tent, trying to scramble the wood line to, I defecated myself. And that's just part of the adventure, right? We after we got cleaned up and we got the tents packed up, we got loaded up in the car. We took the 30-minute drive to the trailhead, and it was dark when we started. What time did we actually get started? About 5 o'clock.
5:08.
It was like
5:08. Yeah.
Exact time. I remember every minute of it.
Yeah.
5:08.
5:08. We got started. We had our headlamps on, and we started making the trek up the switchbacks. So the first 3 miles, switchbacks.
We got to see a
beautiful
sunrise.
Sunrise, saw black bear.
Yeah.
Beautiful sunrise. Yep. We saw bear. We saw some grouse. We saw a lot of other people up there, and it was kind of it was very peaceful, very calming. We were full of energy, and we were making our way up there. And it was an absolutely stunning morning.
It was beautiful. I loved just going around every corner because I've seen the views before, and watching you guys just be amazed at like the rock cliffs. The first time we came around the corner after the switchbacks, see the middle Teton that we were going to take.
Yeah.
It was just fun to see you guys experience that.
Yeah, not seeing the lakes as you get higher and higher and higher, and then just the perfect sunrise over them. That's great.
We were walking through a Bob Ross painting. It was absolutely stunning. I mean, seriously, I was looking at Lacey like we were walking in a painting, and we were stopping so much to take photos and whatnot, and we were falling behind you guys a little bit because we were
That's why it took us 19 hours.
Yeah.
Photo taking.
It was just so majestic, but we made our way up, and then after about the 3-mile mark is where you hit the first patch of boulders.
Yeah. That was rough. Actually, think about it a little further than 3 miles. Remember that on the way out, the 3 mile side was into the switchbacks?
Probably about 3.5.
Probably 3.5 or 4.
Yeah.
So we had a big boulder patch.
Yeah.
And in my memory, like I said, it's been 10 years. When I think about going through the boulders, I thought that was it.
Yeah.
Once we got through those boulders to Meadows, I thought, okay, we're through the boulders. Now we're going to side hill this thing all the way to the saddle. But we had another 4 miles of boulders.
Yeah, and the boulders, I mean, they're huge. It takes every muscle that you have to navigate through these boulders, and you're scaling these things up and down and up and down. There's so much energy being expended, and then you get to this nice, like, little path kind of opens up. It's a nice little, it's called the Meadows. It's nice and grassy, and you can actually camp up there. We saw some tents up there. Yeah, absolutely beautiful. There's a stream running through there, and I would love to go back up there and just camp that site.
Camp in that meadow.
Yeah.
These boulders, we got to give them an idea. Like this room, some of these boulders are the size of this kitchen that we're in.
Yeah.
The whole house.
You're scaling up and over these boulders and deep down, and some of them you step down and they can be a little loose, and you can fall through a crevice, and if you're not careful, you can twist your ankle up.
Oh, easily.
You can easily hurt yourself.
So it's not just walking along a dirt trail.
Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. So we make it through the Meadows, and then I would say the next perilous, the real perilous section begins.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like loose rock. We basically had to navigate kind of like around this big bend, and there's a lot of loose rock falling down the mountainside. There's like this snow, what would you call it?
A snow glacier.
Yeah, it's just a straight up glacier coming down, and it's a lot of loose rock that we scrambled up, and it became very apparent to me when I looked around and saw all the other hikers in the valley wearing helmets, and we did not have helmets, and the rock slides, like boulders the size of the Buick that we drove up, are falling down the side of the mountain, because there were times where I heard someone yell falling. You could hear it echo through the canyon, and we look up and you can see the boulder like flying down the mountain, kind of in our direction. So we had to kind of duck down.
That's all we could do, go behind the big boulder.
That was right after the Meadows when we first started up that left side.
It all started to go down.
That's when I really start to think about it. I'm like, where are we? Like, this is like legit. This is like a legit hike.
Why does Scotty hate us?
Yeah, why does Scotty hate us? But no, I was like, this is cool, but yet it was like the first time, like, okay, this is a dangerous situation. Like, we've got to be on our A game. Mm-hmm. And I loved it. I mean, I thought it was cool, but it started to become very physically taxing as we're scrambling up, and you're seeing the falling rock come down, and then we're actually on rock that's falling down. And some of the hikers are kind of yelling at each other, trying to figure out the best path to navigate through this. I'm like, okay, this is pretty serious. Yeah. So I don't know how long it took, but it seemed like a very long time to navigate that section. And we scrambled up some of the loose rock, and then we had to make our way. We decided to skirt across to the right. And I guess
it took us about an hour and a half that next mile, because I remember looking at my tracker, and it was about another hour and a half to make it through.
Not bad.
After the Meadows. Like it was, we were still doing great on time, because I remember Scotty saying it's going to probably be about 11 when we summit. Well, it will be doing great on time. Great on time.
Yeah, we were doing good until then.
Yeah. Well, we essentially hit a waterfall, and we literally scaled this waterfall to get up to the next level of the saddle. So we're making our way up to the saddle, and we hit the waterfall. I'm like, man, I'm legitimately climbing a waterfall right now.
Yeah, that was a cool point. Yeah. And I remember that's a point too when we were hiking up, where first, when I went 10 years ago, we went all the way up the left side of that canyon. It's called Garnet Canyon up there, I think. And then all the way to the saddle. And I remember just thinking like, okay, there's hikers down there on the right side. And Greg's trail was showing the right side. And I was like, okay, maybe the path I took 10 years ago is not the same. So that's when we cut across that waterfall. And I remember getting to that waterfall, and I'm like, okay, I'm on a different path than I've been in the past. So I remember going 100 yards, 200 yards above that, where we went over a little saddle, I don't know. You know, with the point that looks like you're at the saddle, but then you get to it, and then there's another one, and then another one. I remember getting to that and going past a little bit and looking back, because I needed to know, okay, which way did we come, so when we come back down, and like looking at it, like, okay, this is the way we got to come back down. Long story short, when we get back to it, I do not ever remember finding that place on the way down, which is part of the struggle too. But yeah, we had to kind of take a different path right there.
Yeah, there were like different levels of the saddle, and it was kind of disheartening, because it's like, man, at that point we were expending a lot of energy, and that's when we noticed that time was just.
And I remember that Gabby also was like, did we just unintentionally go through things that we didn't have to go through. Or you said something like that because I saw your face like, I'm so Scotty.
Like, really? We just went through all that for nothing? Yeah, we would see little hills, and then it's like another one and another one. We're like, when are we going to get there?
Yeah. And I think it was somewhere in there, hours into it, what seemed like hours, I felt like I was getting fatigued, and that was about the time that you fell for the first time. And I remember you fell right in front of me, and it was almost like slow motion. You almost hit your head.
Yeah.
Was that when you first hurt your ankle?
That's where my foot got stuck, and so I hurt a little bit of my ankle, and then I landed and slid up like my wrist here. Almost hit my head. I was like inches from hitting my head, but yeah, that was the first injury.
Yeah, you fell right in front of me, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is why people wear helmets. You know, that was one of the things I was thinking about. And that's where, that's one of the, this is like, this 12-hour tour ultimately turned into 19 hours because, and this could happen to any one of us. Like, it's a legit concern.
He's like, because of her.
Yeah. What's that?
Because it turned into 19 hours. Because of me.
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's a legit issue that, I mean, that's where you first aggravated your knee. And you're, like you said, where you're using every bit of your energy in your body, everything, every resource that you have is being used. So any little injury like this can,
it's big,
it's huge. So, but you continue to press on, which was absolutely amazing. You continue to move on despite it and fight through that.
That is one of the most impressive things. The fact that when you came out of all of it, going to the end really quick, like, you still had a smile on your face.
That was probably delusional.
You got so beat up, but you still had a smile on your face.
Yeah.
That was very
So we continued to scale up and boulder our way up to the saddle. Do you guys remember what time we made it to the saddle? Or how long it took us?
Greg Greg had taken off and kind of gotten ahead of us.
I would say it was close to like 11 or 12 when we actually got to the saddle. Because I think that's the part where I started feeling my back feel weird, so I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to push through. I'm just going to push through and meet you guys up there.
So it took us about 7 hours from the start point to get to the saddle, which wasn't even the halfway point. 7 hours. We weren't even at the halfway point. But the saddle opens up between the middle Teton and the south.
Yep.
And when you crest there was a couple marmots up there, which are a little furry. And they obviously have seen humans before because they were not affected by us at all. In fact, they were like looking at us like, feed us, please. But they're laying there on the edge. I remember like looking up, and Lacey, you were just ahead of me, like, you're not going to believe that. I look over, and there's like this, it just opens up the most beautiful scenic view.
Yeah.
It was breathtaking. Glacier Lake, yeah.
Okay.
That was
beautiful. I don't know if you guys actually got a chance to look over, but as soon as you look over, that wind just hit really hard.
Oh.
Yeah, but it was beautiful to
I remember the wind because it was getting kind of warm, and it was like cooling us off. It was actually kind of nice. But absolutely scenic view. And then just to the right, we look up, and that's when we had to start the actual ascent up to the top of the summit. And there was a string of climbers all the way, and it was almost like this little, the only way up, I mean, it was straight, almost straight up, like vertical, and it was just a string of climbers, basically in single file, going up, traversing the side.
And I think what made it a little bit more challenging was because there was no set path. Everybody pretty much just created their own path, and if you trusted the person in front of you, you had to follow them, or you make your own path. Because there was no markers, nothing.
There's no
you're going up whatever way you go up.
Whatever way you can.
I remember at the top, I saw Scotty coming up a different way than I came up, so that made it a little more challenging too.
Yeah.
So this is steep. It is sheer, and like Scotty said earlier, it is the most difficult climb that you can do without ropes, and it was made a little bit more dangerous with all the loose rock that were up there, and hikers ahead of you kicking rocks down as you're traversing this, and you're climbing on loose rock and trying to find the solid rock that you could like climb up. And I am scared of heights, so when we kind of started climbing that, I was getting kind of freaked out and nervous.
Yeah.
There was one point up there, and along with the falling rock, the loose rocks, and how steep it is, you're in this crevice of the mountain going up like this, there's freshwater springs pouring out of the mountain. So some of the rocks are wet.
Yeah. Very slippery.
Loose. There was one point that I remember the other 2 times I went, we stayed right in the bottom and we were able to climb up it, but whether it's falling rocks over the 10 years or some rocks missing, like we had to side hill up a rock face and across another one. There was one point I got across and I was scared, and I'm kind of nervous about those things, so I'm like, Gabby, be careful, hold on really close, And I looked back, Gabby had already made it through, and I didn't see all of it, but I just saw Jay fall to his knees on the part where you could literally fall and tumble. No cliff, but you'd be tumbling like a rag doll through the rocks.
This was a moment
that's the first time my heart stopped. Like,
I was the last one in the party. Lacey was right in front of me. You were just up ahead of me. And this was the first time, like, it was like legit. There was a bunch of loose rock on the left, and we had to go up the right, but it was like a ledge that you could put your fingers in, but there was no foothold for your feet. And at that point, I mean, Lacey had just made it. And I looked at Lacey, I'm like, I don't know how you did that. And I've got my backpack on, which is kind of heavy because I'm carrying water as the Sherpa for the day. And I'm just like, I was exhausted and I'm scared of heights. And I'm like, I legit didn't think that I could, I don't know how you guys did it. I'm looking at it like, and I looked at Lacey and I'm like, this isn't worth it. I'm going to die. I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I want to quit. Like, I legit, like, is this worth it? And I was legitimately thinking about my life, my kids. Like, this is just not worth it. And we still had a ways to go.
Yeah.
I was legitimately terrified. And Lacey,
not only like all that, but we're already like exhausted. Like, we've used every muscle.
That was like hour 8 probably.
Yeah.
And what did you say? You motivated me.
I don't remember what I said. I said, I think, look at me, and like you looked at me in my eyes, and I said, I love you, and I said, we're gonna make it to the top. You didn't come this far just to give up.
Yeah.
So you're gonna make it to the top.
So personally,
I think he cussed at me a little bit.
I dropped the F-bomb up and down this mountain all the way.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, it was a terrifying moment for me that I had, and I was thinking, do hard things. This is the moment. This is why these adventures are so important. This is where you develop confidence and grit and resiliency. But I would not have been able to make it had you not just like calmingly just told me that I could do it and encouraged me, and you guys have all made it. I'm like, okay, I can do this. I might die, but I grabbed onto it, and that's when I did I'm not the most graceful person. This awkward maneuver where Scotty was like, oh my God, I think he's going to die. And I somehow Spider-Man'd it.
Yeah, you made it.
Yeah.
You leaped onto your knees. It looked like a fall to me, so I was scared.
But I was like gripping with my fingers because the ledge was all the way across and it was a sheer drop. And I somehow swung my body over and made it. And then we continued. We continued onto the summit. And there was a crowd of people up there. This was already
my crowd, like 8 to 10 maybe.
Yeah.
You could probably comfortably fit like 4 up there, but it was crowded up there.
Yeah.
And it was breathtaking, but also terrifying. Because in the view up there, I mean, you got a 360 view, and it was just straight, just sheer.
It's beautiful.
Absolutely beautiful.
We're all holding on for dear life, and there's like younger millennials up there doing the selfies, not
Instagram photo shoot, no care in the world.
Hanging 1 foot off the edge.
I'm like 2 hands on the because at the top the rock goes like this, where the little marker is, and like I'm up there with both hands and both feet, everything touching. There's one guy leaped across that rock, just like
jumped around careless,
incredible, like a deer, and I'm like, dude, if you slipped, you're gone.
It makes my stomach drop just even thinking about it.
I was so scared I couldn't enjoy it, but we did get our photos up there. We got a group photo up there, then we took some individual photos.
And that was the best like moment for me up there. Because we had like made it, and then it all went downhill.
Yeah.
Literally.
It was exhilarating. It's like we made it to the top of the mountain, but that was just the beginning of the chapter, right?
we weren't very many feet down that before you started hurting.
Yeah.
And I think for me it was deceiving because I always think, okay, going down is going to be much easier. Like you're going down, it's so much easier. Hands down, it was way more difficult.
And that's what I was thinking too, because same exact thought, where I'm like, going down, we're going to go 2 times faster, we're good, and it was just as technical as going up.
Yeah.
Didn't you and I say we're going to get down in like 4 hours?
Yeah, we were so
it took us like 7 or something to get up, and we're like, okay, we're going to do this in like 4 hours.
Scotty's like, we're going to make it to the car by night 5
o'clock.
Like 5. Let's go to Jackson and have dinner.
We'll have dinner
and we'll take pictures.
We had high hopes of like dipping our feet in the meadow.
Oh yeah.
We were gonna swim in some pools of that fresh spring water.
Scotty sold us his dream.
I laid out the dream of how the path would be on the way down. It didn't look anything like that.
No.
For someone scared of heights, going up, you're looking at the mountain. As terrified as I was, you're looking at the mountain and you're just looking at the task at hand and the crevices and the rock. Coming down, you're looking at you're death. you're looking like where your body is going to tumble all the way. That was very difficult for me to detach, like, okay, because you know, when you climb, like, don't look down, don't look down. You have to look down.
To get down.
But it's just different. It was a different, like, I was scared. I was more terrified coming down. Like, how are we going to get down off of this? Yeah. And there were other climbers with us. That group that was up there, we all kind of banded together and coached each other down the mountain.
Well, and the difficult thing about coming down too is with all the loose rock, I was ready to get off of the mountain. Like, I just wanted to get down. I didn't know how hurt you were at the time, but my mission was like, get down. I don't care how far ahead I am. I'll find Greg down at the bottom and we'll all meet up. Well, Jay was high enough that he was trying to get down at the same time and was kicking rock, and that's like when that was my first crying moment. Was he accidentally, you know, released a rock and it hit the back of my leg, and you know, between exhaustion, pain, being scared, my tears just started coming.
I felt so bad.
And I looked at him and I was like, do not go. Like, once you can't see me, then you can go. But until then, just stop moving. And so then my mission was just to get off that mountain, like, and as far away from the loose rock as possible.
That rock was probably about the size of the cell phone, and although it doesn't look very big, when it's tumbling down, like, it gained speed.
It's hard.
And
one almost got my head.
yeah, that was later on.
Oh, it was?
I know. Down by the waterfall coming down. But yeah, I mean, it was dangerous. It's a funnel, and like any rock can be dangerous. But we were slowly scrambling our way down with this party of people. We met up with a couple. There's a couple of like teenage girls up there.
That worked at the park.
You need to talk about following them down the wrong path.
Well, the two park girls were separate from the two orange helmets.
Yeah. So it was 4 girls that came down with us.
Yeah.
Not any of those 4 had ever been up there. That was their first time.
Yeah.
And one of them, if you're thinking about climbing the middle of Teton after learning a little from us as well, it's awesome. Don't get us wrong. I've done it 3 times.
It's not awesome.
But the ones in the girls in the orange helmets, they were like, our friends told us about this hike, but they did not. It's not like what they made it sound like. It was so much more hard.
Well, realistically, I mean, our friend also told us about the hike, and it was
who is that? I would like to connect that.
Who was that?
There was no mention.
I think there's a loss of trust there now.
I think you forget sometimes it's an important lesson. Sometimes you go through hard things, you forget, so it's good to remember them.
Maybe that's what it was. You blocked it out.
So we can listen to this podcast before I decide to ever go back. Okay, so yeah, we're going down to these girls. Gabby's injured. You guys don't really know that. I don't even really know that yet. I'm ahead of her.
I'm like moving an inch at a time, literally, like just dragging my leg.
Yeah, so we finally make it down the sheer part down to just above the saddle. So there's like a little, it almost kind of levels out a little bit, and there's like this other little sketchy part that you go down into the saddle before you traverse down the saddle. We were with a group of people, and being tired and not really paying attention, we were like in a conversation, we were talking about the podcast. We're just thankful to be off that sheer part. And taking a minute to rest, recharge, get some calories in, drink some water. You guys were right behind us.
We were up behind you guys.
But we kind of blindly follow this other group, and I just assumed that they kind of knew the way. And so just like ducks in a row, we kind of follow them down the mountain. And once again, everything looks different on the way back. And so
it really does.
Blindly following the group, we started traversing down, ascending down, which it was very steep, very technical. It took us maybe about 30 minutes of traversing down. We determined, or the leader of the pack determined, we weren't able to go down any further. And we were not in the same place that we ascended up. And by this point, we were kind of in a bad situation because we were completely exhausted. Lacey and I were like on this ledge, and there was a potential other way. We were trying to figure out how to get back up because the part that we went down was incredibly steep. And what we realized was that basically we were lost. I mean, the group got lost off the path, and we had to basically climb our way back out of it. By this time, you were so exhausted. You're like,
so exhausted. I looked at Jay.
I can't do this.
I cannot. I physically could not wrap my head around getting back up.
Going back up where you came
Oh my God. Like, I was trying to find any other route except for the route that we had just taken to get down. Like, I needed to.
And we'd only made it about halfway down as far as you know, like, this is not right. I cannot see the saddle. So we went up. I went up because she was hurt. And that was a point where we were in a little bit of a difficulty because I guided her also down. a little ways further than we needed to. So I jogged back up, and I was like, oh, it's this way. So I sent Gabby up that way and kind of told her what to do. And I went back down towards you guys, and I was like, oh crap, I can't see you guys. And I know how far down, you said it was like 30 minutes. I'm like, I don't want to go down there and back up. So I went as far as I could until I saw the first orange helmet from the other group ascending back up, and I was like, please tell me that Jay and Lacey follow these guys up. But once I saw the first person coming back up, I was like, okay, they're gonna come back up here. So yeah, so we wrapped back around.
That was the moment that I was like it was another scary moment because you were so exhausted and I was exhausted, and you're like, I can't go back up there. And I'm like, okay, we're into another dangerous situation, and we're running out of time because we spent an hour going down and then trying to crawl back up out of there. I'm like, with the state, our physical state, we didn't have much more climbing left in us, is what we thought.
Yeah. And
you were like done. And I'm like, Lacey, we have got to follow them because if we have a problem, we need to be around other climbers. And at that point, it was later in the day. We were like the last group of climbers on the mountain all together, so we had to go. And you continued to press on. And
I pressed on. Jay kind of said some mean things about the group that we followed, not intentionally. It was just kind of heated moment.
Sorry if you're listening.
Yeah, if you're listening, I apologize. My voice carries. I said some not nice things about the person leading us. And
it was
not
as much our fault
as it was
anybody else's.
So.
I was not showing up as my best self. I apologize.
He apologizes.
But yeah, we finally made it up out of that section, but we still had one sketchy section to go back down.
You have to go across a glacier.
Yeah.
Or if you slip, you would slide down the snow.
Yeah, and apparently a girl had slid down the week before, and it is steep. Like there's no. Yeah,
you fell, and my heart stopped. She fell on that snow, on that steep part, on the very steep part where it's close to the thing. And luckily she just went straight down and didn't slide at all, but man, my heart stopped and I like leaped backwards. It was freaky, because we were close, because I knew she was hurt then. But that was scary. So be careful.
Yeah, it was sketchy. It was hard packed snow that was almost like ice, and it was so sheer that, and it was like you're like just taking little baby steps. And I was trying to like stomp into the snow so I could get grip, but there was a couple times I think I had to scoot on my butt a little bit because it was so slick, and you were just gonna slide right off the mountain.
Yeah, so it's almost like you had to slide on your butt, because then if you fell, you would like hurt your arms that you needed to get out. So it was so sketchy.
So we finally get off that glacier and get back to the saddle. And then that's when you were really hurting. Like your knee was really bothering you.
Yeah, it was like really bad.
I think I had taken off again. I still didn't know you were hurt. But I had left and taken off.
Well, you said a couple times, I'm ready to go off this mountain. I'm ready. I'm so ready to get out of here. Like I'm done.
I was like, I'm just going to solo this from here on out. Like I'm done. I'm getting out. Because I knew Greg was somewhere. I didn't know if you were just...
Yeah, and I didn't want to just completely get off the mountain, without at least letting you guys know. Because I'm like, what if they think like I went missing or something, and then they started searching for me. So when I got to a spot that I thought the bouldering was over. 3
hours or 4 hours before the bouldering?
Exactly. So I just, laid there and just waited. And then when I got up, I saw Lacey coming down. And I'm like, okay, cool, they're on their way. And then I just see Gabby kind of limping her way. I'm like, oh, poor Gabby.
This was when...
And I was still like so far up.
Yeah, I think Greg and I both look up, and it's Scotty. And then Gabby, you can see her hands on Scotty's shoulders.
Yeah.
And then Jay's behind the two of them. And it's like, they're not moving.
It's snail.
But we're pretty sure they're supposed to be moving, but they're not moving. Like, it was snail space.
And I see Scotty kind of looking down to go the wrong way. And that's when I went, I don't know if you heard me when I was like, stay at the same elevation.
That helped.
Yeah. Because otherwise you would have gone the really steep part and you would have to gone back up. So,
thank you.
But what was the amount of time that it took you? I remember you said...
Oh, there was one point where it was maybe 50 yards. 40 or 50 yards, which you could...
All right, hey, so we're back. So we're at the point where Gabby's injured, and she's holding on to Scotty. You're ahead of us. Did you know at this time that she was hurt?
No.
No, okay, so you're a little bit ahead of us, just advanced anyway.
I didn't know she was hurt yet.
You didn't know you were hurt, or she was hurt either.
So him and I were standing down there. We look out.
Dreaming about being done with the boulder, and it's only like right there.
Yeah, Greg's telling me we're done with the boulders.
We're at the saddle. We got what, 5.4 miles to go. There it goes.
It's still going.
Oh, okay.
Click.
That was the other one.
Okay. All right. Good. lost my train of thought. 5.4 miles to go. Gabby's injured. Not everyone in the party knows that yet, but you guys are like a little bit of ahead. I think at that point I was back there with you guys. And I knew that she was hurt, and I was looking at my watch like we're like the last ones coming down. There was another party, the party that was with us, but I knew it was late in the day, and I'm like, okay, if we don't get to moving, we're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
But you were moving really slow. Greg, you were ahead. Lacey was ahead because she was done with the mountain. She's like, I'm out of here. But we were spread out enough to where we're keeping eye contact with each other. At some point, Lacey and you had met up and waiting on us. That's when you noticed that we were moving kind of at a snail's pace. You knew something was up.
Yep.
To give you an idea of the snail's pace, about 50 yards is about half a football field. Took us anywhere probably 20 to 30 minutes to give you an idea how slow we were going.
Yeah.
And that's where I didn't really have any fears of heights or climbing the rocks. Never felt like my life was in danger because I'm very careful there. You did. But that's where I got scared. Like I brought all 5 of us up here, and now we might not make it down before it gets dark or at all today. It might be by tomorrow. Because I was just doing the calculations on how far we'd been, how far we had to go, and the pace we were going. I was like, we're not making it down, and those boulders are going to get even harder. They're already hard as it is. Like I can't see how we're going to do this in the dark.
And at this point, we're exhausted. The 2-mile path to the switchbacks did not look anything like the way up. It was almost like we were in a different valley. And at that point, we were out of water for a long period of time. And we knew that there's spring, but it was a ways away. Like it was like at least another hour and a half away. And by this point, I was so dehydrated and depleted. And just mentally and physically exhausted. I'm like, we've got a long ways to go. This is going to be rough.
Yeah. We met up with you guys. Gabby and us 3 got down to you guys, and then Greg made a decision.
Well, that's when he told us how much was left.
Oh yeah, exciting! We only have 5.2 miles left.
Yeah, and we were like, "What? No!"
That means we had gone. It took us about 1.1 miles or so from the summit to that point. It took us 4 hours.
Yeah.
And we still had 5.5 miles to go, and it's like 6 p.m. So
yeah.
I was nervous. I was scared that we would not make it out.
So at that point, you decided to go ahead because you were feeling pretty fresh. And you were pretty mobile. You gave me your charger. We synced up with the phone contact plan. You were going to go to Jackson Hole and get us some hot food. And I was nervous about you splitting off by yourself, but we knew that if something happened, we'd probably run into you on the way down. We were going to keep phone contact.
And that's what actually you mentioned that. Halfway down the mountain, I realized like, wait, I'm confident at home, but there's grizzlies out here.
Yeah.
That's when I'm like, I should probably carry my bear spray in front. So
but you said you wanted to see a grizzly.
Not alone though.
Not alone. Exactly.
But there were still other hikers around you. You weren't
along the way
alone. Yeah. So, but you went ahead and made that decision. And then Lacey and I, we kind of hung back. Lacey took point, and what we wanted to do was have the straight line path. Because on the way up, we're trying to figure out different paths. And you have to kind of backtrack. But just to mitigate the amount of time Gabby was going to spend on her knee, we decided to kind of spread out a little bit so we could, find the path of least resistance down the mountain. But it looked completely different than the way up.
Yeah,
totally different.
And the bouldering, we were exhausted, we were tired, but we executed great teamwork in that Lacey was up taking point. I was able to we were within eyesight of each other.
Which still kind of shocks me that they followed. I should not have been point. I was on such a...
Lacey was so determined to get off the mountain. She was the perfect person for this job because she was gone. But there were times we tried to keep eye contact with each other, probably keeping 100 meters apart, but there were still times where we lost eye contact with each other. In fact, there was one time I was like peering over the boulders looking for Lacey, and she kind of popped up like a prairie dog with a little top knot. I was like, oh, there she is. And like, what are you doing? I was like, yeah, what are you doing? I fell. It was no joke. Like these boulders, like you fall down in there and you were gone. But we were slowly making our way down. We made our way through the boulder field. We had like 2 miles of boulders essentially, with a little prairie, the Meadows, which gave us a little bit of reprieve. We had to climb back down the waterfall, which was a challenge because the rocks were wet. And that was also the same section with the falling rock, the falling Buick, if you will. We saw a falling rock again. We heard it, and Lacey had to duck down. And we just weren't on the woods yet.
Yeah.
There's nothing like hearing those rocks falling that canyon.
No.
It's loud.
You think it's like thunder.
Yeah,
it's like a rumble of thunder or a train coming or something, and you're just but you don't know where it is the scary thing, and you don't know how it's going to bounce.
Yeah.
So it's like, even if it's going in a straight line and then all of a sudden it like veers to the left, and you're just like...
There were rocks falling the size of a car, but even a rock the size of this coaster here would take you out. Like, and in fact, when Lacey was down by the waterfall, or close to it, I kicked up another rock, and I mean, falling, and I was like, I could see the rock bouncing, and it nearly hit you right in the back of the head. It scared me so much.
I saw the death glare.
Lacey gave me the death glare.
I saw it. From 100 meters away. I was like,
You felt it. You're like,
yeah. I was like, yeah, but it was close. So it was a sketchy situation for sure.
Yeah. Moving slow. At this point, probably for 4 hours, Gabby's holding onto my shoulders. A cool little, just a lesson I think that I think about. We worked as a team. Lacey guiding, Jay kind of guiding us which way to go to make it shorter path for her, getting us watered. Greg running down.
There would be nothing
pizza.
open if he didn't go.
It would have been closed by the time we got down.
Yeah.
But like, to give you an idea, like the bones on my inside of my foot were hurting. I had slight pains in my knees, but I was like, we had to get her down. We had to get off the mountain before it was windy and chilly up there, and we didn't want to spend the night. So she literally held onto my back for probably 4 hours total. Just pushed. I was like, put all your weight on, and like, we just got to keep moving. We got to get out of here. But the cool thing is, like, I didn't feel the pain in my feet, in my knees, in my shoulders, and my traps, like all the things that should be hurting. It was there, but I just didn't feel it. And I think that's cool. Like, when you're helping somebody else in anything in life, you kind of forget about your own stuff. But when we got down past where she, the adrenaline kicked in, ibuprofen, the prayers, she picked up her pace probably 5 times faster. She was walking on her own. That's when I was like, oh man, I hurt so bad, but I didn't feel it. That's kind of a cool thing that when you're helping somebody else, you don't feel your own stuff as much.
And we were all working together really well as a team, because there was even a time I saw some water and I traversed all the way across the valley to get some water. We were all thirsty. I brought it back to you guys. That was just a nice little reprieve from the moment. Yeah. That was the best tasting water I've ever had in my life. So good. And it gave us a little bit of a boost, but we still had a long ways to go at that point. But we make our way down basically where the waterfall was. That's where the glacier was. That's where the falling rock was. And coming down the glacier, I want to think glacier, because that's when I hear Bear Grylls talk about it. The glacier, the crevasse.
You say crevasse.
Crevasse. It's because I watch all the survival shows. But yeah, we took the path of the... We're back live.
4th time.
So we make it down the glacier, which is the coldest mud I've ever sat on. And by this point, we were with there were some other campers up there, so we knew that we were going to be okay. We could survive the night, But we still had to get across the meadow, and then one more set of boulders before we hit the switchbacks.
Yeah. Even right about then, I was just doing calculations on our speed, and I just remember I was probably annoying Gabby. She probably hates me for it, but I was like, at the pace, because we set goals. I was trying to set goals with her. We got to get to the meadow before dark. We got to get to the meadow before dark. I think we can do the last boulder field in the dark, but the goal was the meadows. And then we would get to like where those campers were, and I'd see the meadows, and it looks close, but I was like, we're not gonna make it. At this pace, we are not going to make it before dark.
And then in my head, when you were like, we need to get to the boulders by dark, I'm like, no, we need to get past, because there's no way that we could do those boulders in the dark.
No way.
Yeah, we would get so lost or hurt.
So that, I think she might have hated me, but it motivated us to move faster.
Yeah.
Putting into perspective, like at this pace, we will not. We sometimes need someone to call out that,
And we were kind of walking past the hikers, and they were all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed because they got up there. They were so excited about the hike the next day, asking us questions.
Because they were doing it in a 2-day hike.
Yeah, these guys are not hikers that went. They were just ones that went up with their backpacks and were in tents. So they got
and that first part is so easy. So the rest will be easy.
They're excited about what they're having in store tomorrow. And
we're coming off the mountain disheveled with the 1,000-yard stare, like, don't do it, man. Just don't do it. And they were like, what? Why would you do it? So we kind of gave them a quick explanation of the rundown of the experience that we had, leaving them up to their own decision making. We gave them our... we were at that point, we were hurting. But it was great to be down in that section, but we had to get to that last little boulder. And the boulders in this section were much bigger than the boulders up the saddle. And I remember just like just, I mean, we were climbing, and I remember just being so tired by that point.
Yeah, well, you're using your whole body. Like, I thought going into this, my legs were going to be tired.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I'm going to just whole body. And a lot of it is like very tense,
yeah,
because you're just having to grip for your
shoulder,
life. Yes.
Everything. Yeah.
Legs were shaking, and it was like full body, like getting down in the up and down, up and down.
Yeah.
And time was running out. Like, it was starting to get dark at that point.
At this point, Gabby has a good pace, like for being injured, which I believe is a miracle. I was praying out loud. As we're going forward, I kept looking back at you. I was ahead of you guys, just trying to find the path of least resistance at this point. And I'm a soft-spoken person, so I'm like speaking full sentences. You guys don't know what I'm talking about. But what I'm telling them is like, I'm not leaving you guys. I'm just going ahead to find what's ahead. But what I wanted to see in that big boulder field was I wanted to identify a visual direction of where the trail was on the other side of the boulders. Because my fear at this point was like, it was like dark. The sun was already set, so it's that last light before it gets dark. I wanted to spot that trail so I could at least go have an idea of which way to go through the boulders. Because I figured if we did it with headlamps, we could end up way down the canyon and then have to come back up. And it's the last thing I wanted with where we were at. So there was one point, I was ahead of you guys, so you guys didn't see this, but it's the first time I cried. It was like happy tears, I think. I don't know if you saw me throw my arms in the air. Like, I cried because like I saw the start of the trail and it wasn't dark yet. So I was like, even though we had another 150 meters to go, like I just threw my, like a victory, like, and a little like happy cry that like the trail was there.
And we made it like just in the nick of time. Like we hit the trailhead and then it was like pitch black.
You couldn't see your hand in front of your face. Like
it was the last possible moment that we could have gotten there. And in that last little, I remember I was like, oh, the mountains gave us one last little FU, because it was like literally sliding up and down. Like I was like, okay, the mountain's getting the last laugh, but we're going to make it out of here, because you could see the switchback.
Yeah.
And we literally got off that last boulder just in time.
Yeah.
And that was a nice little positive victory. You know,
that was
like, okay, we got 3 miles to go. But we didn't. We thought we had 3 miles to go.
Jay, tell us about those 3 miles.
Longest 3 miles of my life.
Like 4 hours.
I'm like, we're going to get off here maybe hour and a half.
Scotty kept saying, oh, well, we'll be down there by midnight. I'm like, oh, he's wrong. We got this a lot faster. So much faster.
Now you run all the time.
Yeah, I run all the time, you know, so distance, you think an average pace.
We took that first pause, and I remember laying down. I think I was complete starfish.
You were starfish.
I was like just completely laid out. I just need a moment just to recover and just to celebrate that we were on the switchbacks. But I was exhausted.
Well, when I left you guys, that's how I left you. You were just starfish, right?
This wasn't the first time.
That's what I do. I take that moment.
Well, I was just like, we had our headlamps on, and at this time the bugs are starting to come, so they're like smacking you in the face, and you know, but at least we're on the switchbacks.
But I knew at that point we were going to get off the mountain.
I felt safe with that. I didn't care about bears, anything.
Yeah.
I was exhausted.
Oh,
I knew we were.
Bears.
Jay's like, a bear, please take me now.
Well, Scotty was whistling going down. I'm like, maybe he's in a pretty good mood. I didn't realize what he was doing. It was really making noise because, like you said, that bears will attack you because they get startled. So you want to make noise coming down. But it was kind of funny. So I whistle while you work, you know, kind of all the way down the mountain, you know. But we were on our way. We knew that there was hot pizza at the end, so that the whole teamwork aspect of this, we were motivated because we knew Greg was down there with pizza. We were getting off the mountain. We weren't climbing any more boulders. But man, what a false sense of
hope.
Because that was the longest 3 miles of my life.
We Google searched when we got back. That's got to be wrong. Like maybe it's like 3 miles as the bird flies. Like,
yeah, that's what.
Without, but it's 3 miles. But it feels like.
Well, there was.
So 12. What, it was 9. What time was it? 9:30, 9:15 when we got off the boulder.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it took.
So 9:15 until midnight.
Yeah.
To do just about 3 miles.
It took us over 3 hours.
Trail.
Yeah, so we're going a mile an hour. And it felt like we were going so much faster, but I guess just, you know, being exhausted. And at this point, I started to hallucinate a little bit. And when you start to have hallucinations because you're so tired, and I attribute it to not getting good night's sleep a couple nights before, being dehydrated, and then the adrenaline rush of all of the moments of being scared, so taxing on the body that I started seeing you start seeing shadows and snakes and all sorts of
You saw a parking lot.
I saw a parking lot at one point because your headlamps, you guys were up there. I swore I saw the parking lot with cars.
Well, and we kept wanting to find the bridge because we knew that there was a bridge that we had passed, and it was at the very beginning. And so
and then we heard water.
Yeah.
So
and we
thought
were walking
for sure.
away from it. We're like,
Yeah.
no, this can't be
Tell us
right.
about the point where we had to hide the sign.
Yeah, so Scotty and I are a little bit ahead of Gabby and Jay, and you know, we see a sign that says no horses beyond this point. We're like, okay, and then we see a second sign and it says go this way for something or another, and then go this way for our route, and it said 1.7 miles, and Scotty and I are like, just we felt so depleted, and we're like, okay, Jay and Gabby are extremely discouraged right now. What do we do? So I'm pretty sure I stood in front of the sign.
You stood in front of the sign, and
you were ahead
I kept walking.
And I just stood there, and Gabby comes up and she sees the no horses past this point. And I was like, okay, she can't see the sign. She can't see the sign. She just sees the horse sign. And then I kind of like bolt, so they, you know. And so we kept it from them for a little bit because it was just.
And then they
And then
started
finally you
questioning.
guys had to tell us because we're like, we have to be on the wrong path. There is no way that this
Nothing
is
looked
right.
familiar. We're walking where I perceived the creek to be that we crossed over. I'm like, we passed it. Like we can. There's other trails up here, and I've been on night movements, and it's so easy to miss a turn. And I know Scotty's been up here before, but I also know that we're all exhausted, and it's so easy to miss a turn. Like we could easily be going 6 miles up to another parking lot. But he just kept motivating us, and like we're on the right path.
Like, Jay, trust me, I know we're on the right path. I've had Gabby come up, I'm like, Gabby, we hit the sign. We're on the right track. We hit the sign from you and Jay.
Yeah, and then I was like, okay, that gives me like
Thanks for lying to me.
Yeah, so we just kept on moving. 1 foot, it was literally 1 foot in front of the other, but I was at that moment of like, I was done. I was so over it, like done.
Well, the funny thing is the whole joke throughout the whole hike was, where's the sidewalk? Like we need the sidewalk. We need the sidewalk. And finally we hear Scotty say, I found the sidewalk.
And it was like a legit
There's no sidewalk up here. What are you talking? We're not in the right place. There's no sidewalk.
I don't remember. There was like a concrete section.
Yeah.
And like, so I was like, the sidewalk. And I don't remember that on the way in.
You said the sidewalk. We should be excited about it, but I'm like, I don't recall the sidewalk any part of today. We are not in the right place. And this is never going to end.
Yeah, I just.
I remember early in the day, he's like, easy peasy.
And when we were going in, Jay, as anybody knows, is not the most graceful. He's a little clumsy at times. And Scotty was like, oh, these are Jay's stairs because they're kind of deceiving and you don't really see them. So I thought it was funny walking in that Scotty had made the comment. And I was like, oh, there's like 3 of them. Well, coming back, there's like 52. We're like, how many stairs are there?
It's like the Manitou Incline over here. Like, what is this?
And I didn't remember all those stairs coming in. Like, it's just...
Nothing looked right.
Nothing looked
like
right.
So it kind of rattles your confidence like that. So
what did you guys feel when, because I was like maybe 100 yards ahead of you at the very end, when I said we're here, like
I thought you were lying.
I didn't believe you.
I was like, the parking lot.
I was literally had my map out. I was trying to get all trails
Trying to sign up for the first time.
I thought maybe we had gotten to a parking lot, but it's like it's not like our luck. It's not the right parking lot. We're not gonna be able to get a hold of Greg. Like, and then we get out into the parking lot, and Greg's there.
Oh, the huge right there. Greg's there with pizza and Gatorade.
And we're all like, oh,
That was the best Gatorade of my life.
oh, the best.
And willing to drive.
Yeah, he drove
Because we had 2.5 hours. We were prepared with tents to stay, but I didn't have energy to unload the hitch thing with the tents and get the sleeping bag. We could have, but I was like, I just want to sleep in a bed.
Yeah, and I knew Lacey was so done when instead of sitting in the car, she sat on the ground just with her
In the parking lot.
And then she was looking at the flavor, she's like, whatever.
She's sitting there with her Gatorade. They're like, the stars. I'm like, I don't give a F about the stars right now.
They were beautiful though. He's like, look, the Milky Way is right there. And I was like, I know, it's so beautiful.
I love the night sky.
Behind, like, who knows where to go to the bathroom. Like, we don't even care at this point.
We made it.
Yeah, we made it. Hot pizza was there. Greg came through, and we made it, and it was awesome. But we were so disheveled.
Oh my gosh, yeah, disheveled is nice.
And we still had a 2.5 hour drive. It was 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I think the adrenaline was still running through me so hard though that like we had pillows. I couldn't fall asleep in the front. Greg was driving, but I was like my feet, just the pressure of my feet on the floor of the car, even though I was sitting, was still like
too much
keeping
pressure
me from sleeping. I'm like trying to like
Jay's all
take the
cramped
pressure
up.
off.
Like,
Oh, we
keeps
started
getting Charlie
cramping
horses.
too. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I was cramping up. I got in the car, and I'm 6'4", trying to sit in the seat, and I'm like, I could not get comfortable, and I couldn't lean back. I couldn't do anything. I was just like cramping up. I'm like, at least I'm not walking. And I get the pillow. I'm just kind of nodding off, and
like in the field.
Yeah.
Like.
And we had a 2.5-hour drive. I'm telling you, that felt like nothing compared to that walk. Like the 2.5-hour drive went by quick.
It was way faster than
way faster than the 3-mile walk. But we made it back. We made it off. We made it alive. So that was good. So just a couple questions for everyone. What did you love about the whole adventure and whole experience? What did you love about it, Greg?
The actual summit. Like, it was just beautiful. I wasn't expecting it like that. I genuinely thought that it was going to be kind of a flat summit, a little bit of a flat summit, so I could just at least lay down for a second. Yeah. Get up there, and all you see is just these 3 big boulders. I'm like, okay.
Pointing.
Pointing. Yeah, and it was
the crevice of them.
Yeah, and it was really cool to just see you guys too, because you know, I'm an avid hiker, and so my body kind of just got used to it after a while. But seeing you guys push through was great. Like, each of you guys had a moment where you could have easily given up.
Yeah.
And you just pushed through.
And I think that was one of my favorite parts, was like your mind is like so strong, your body's just like out of it. I felt death like a million times during the whole part, but you have to just do it. You know, you have to just keep going. What was that thing you said about everyone? You have the choice to summit.
Oh, summiting is optional, but getting back down is mandatory.
Yeah, so we just had to do it. There was no other way.
Yeah, and that's what I love about hiking in general. It's just, even though you're angry and frustrated and you genuinely feel like you can't keep going, you can.
Yeah.
And you just find energy, whether it's through anger or desperation, hallucination, whatever, and you just keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. We have to transition that into our everyday life challenges, that mindset.
Yeah.
I'll answer that, but Gabby, what do you recommend? What's your recommendation?
Yesterday was like 0 out of 10. Do not recommend. Worst day of my life. But honestly, like looking back, it was cool to have done it. I've done it twice, and I probably won't do it again, honestly. But it was cool to experience, and especially share the experience with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I loved being on the summit. I loved seeing you guys get to the summit. That's the main reason I went again, is to help someone else experience what I experienced before. Not necessarily the pain part, but how amazing it is to be up there.
Your body and mind.
God's creation, and push through that. The second thing was just to see the teamwork. I think a lot of times people think that you, like for example in this, I was kind of the leader. I've been there before, guiding you guys through that it's a lonely thing, but it's actually a lot better to do things together. Because we wouldn't have been able to make it out if we'd been like, okay, each of us just go as best you can on your own. Yeah. Gabby would be up there.
I would still be like, you'd be the one writing the review. Lost my friend, lost my wife.
Lost my wife. Great hike, but my wife's gone.
Well, for reference, I knew I knew Jay, but I didn't know the 3 of you. I didn't even know your names up until last week. Yeah. You know, and I think I've heard Jay speak of you a few times, and I just went and did this life-altering experience with complete strangers virtually, and I feel like you guys are part of my family. It's the whole experience has just changed me.
Yeah.
That's what I love about. I gravitate toward these endurance events, these adventures, because when you're doing it, you're so engrossed in it, like the whole time, not thinking about anything else except for the challenge at hand, and thinking about my kids and my life and how precious life is. Gratitude for life, but being pushed mentally, physically, spiritually. And I've done a lot of endurance events where I can push through, but I've rarely felt like the fear of that was what was powerful about this one, is like I legitimately faced my biggest fear, which is the fear of heights, where I literally thought like you could die. You could legitimately die up here, and getting through that anyway. And for me, the one moment that I appreciated was when I was there on that ledge and wanting to absolutely quit. Like, you encouraged me to press on, and that when you experience things like this, it gives you a lot more confidence. Mm-hmm. And I feel closer to you because of that experience, because you helped guide me through that moment where I wanted to quit. Mm-hmm. And that was just kind of the beginning, because there was a few other moments, but that was like the signature one. Yeah, then ready to push But that's the, I think that's why challenge is so, you have so much gratitude. Like drinking that water that we take for granted, like it's the most amazing water ever, I've never really seriously enjoyed a 2.5-hour car ride.
No.
It was so good compared to the walking. Yeah. And it felt so, just to have know that we're on the way to a warm bed and a shower.
Yeah. So what would you have done differently? Hindsight being 2020. What gear would you have brought, or what would you have done a little bit differently, or I don't know. Would you have done anything differently?
I would have done a helmet. Sorry, I didn't take it from you.
That's actually 100%. I would have done helmet because on hikes like this, I'd rather be over prepared.
Yeah.
And probably the only other thing is just research it a little bit more because I did a good amount of research, but I didn't research the part that it was going to be an actual climb at the top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that, I was not mentally prepared for that. I knew it was going to be a rock scramble because that's what Scotty said.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just this rock scramble to the top. So I'm thinking just a quick rock scramble. And it turned out to be an entire, almost mountaineering experience.
Yeah.
Like 1,000 feet, maybe 1,500 feet.
It was literally just one tiny step away from mountaineering and needing ropes.
Yeah.
So mentally, I wasn't ready for that. But again, once you're there, you know, you've got to do it.
Yeah.
So just a little bit better preparation there. The only other thing is I think I probably would have brought Tylenol.
Yeah.
I saw the elevation gain, but what I didn't see is that it was at 12.8, and that's usually right when it starts kicking in for me. I should have brought Tylenol because the headaches.
Yeah.
But you had Tylenol, and I didn't even think to ask you after Lacey told me about it.
Yeah, we were just like focused on getting down, but it just like spaced it. The thing I would do differently would probably be, dang, I just spaced it. I wouldn't research because I did research, and I think that messed with my head a little. Like just got too in my head by researching, so not that, but I would bring more like apple juice or like juicy stuff. We had like all the dry stuff like trail mix and banana chips and like beach bars, but I just needed something like juicy with moisture, especially when we were dehydrated. I was like, I need something like that.
Imagine
and then
fresh
the
apple.
shoes. I would probably buy like the best shoes you can buy because mine weren't the greatest, but they worked. But I would definitely invest in a good pair of shoes.
Yeah.
And pants. Wear pants. I wore
wear
pants,
pants.
thankfully.
Yeah.
You said it too, but Jay's legs got kind of beat up and cut. But sliding down all those rocks, you definitely want pants on.
What would I do different? I don't know. I enjoyed it a lot. I'd probably wear a helmet. I think it's a little more dangerous. Like I've gone the 2 times before, never heard a rock slide in my life, and I think we heard 3 huge rock slides that were not caused by humans. That's by the earth moving or just something. So I'd wear a helmet. Be my main thing, and bring apples and oranges. Probably gloves too.
Yeah.
And bring electrolytes.
Drink electrolytes ahead of time. Greg recommended some climbing shoes because all I had was big hiking boots that are waterproof. Some Solomons that I bought, and I wore them for a week and a half. I have not one blister on my feet. Like my feet don't really hurt that bad. So that was...
Shout out Solomon.
I think aside from a helmet, it would have been beneficial to have some two-way radios. I think that would have helped significantly with the bouldering, because there's sections where we weren't that far apart, but we just couldn't see each other. And having two-way radios, because there were times that, I mean, with the water rushing, like down by past the Meadows, like you were literally right in front of us. We could not hear you. And and there were points where I think it would have helped guide us through the path a little bit. So I think radios would have been good.
I know it would have been good. A zip line off the top.
A zip line, yeah.
A wingsuit.
A wingsuit off the top.
What about you?
I mean, definitely the helmets, I think, would have been a good thing. And I just, anybody that does want to do it, I think they should need to at least do it with another person, at least for the first time. Like, you hear people that go missing, and there are just so many spots that person could have fell, or, you know, like the crevasse or crevice, however you want to say it. You know, like I still have this haunting fear that that's where he is, you know, and I just, doing things differently on it, all of it. I probably would have not done it had I. But I mean, it was definitely an experience, and you know, it makes me realize that I'm much stronger than I give myself credit for.
Definitely.
That really is like probably one of my favorite things when doing something like this is you see another level of yourself that you didn't see before. Because again, you're so tired and you just want to stop and want to get off, but you have no choice. It's going to be hard going back down or up. So
not only that within yourself, because you feel it, you know how hard it is, but like looking around and being like, everyone else feels this exact same thing, and they're pushing just as hard, and you're just like amazed by everyone else too.
So one final question before we wrap this up is how do you tie this adventure, like what lesson learned from this adventure could you apply to your life?
I mean, I think that's the general thing that I've been speaking, for the last 5 minutes for me, is that we're stronger than we give ourselves credit for. Because, when we're suffering and, in life, whether it's like building a business or whatever, and we think like, oh, we can't do it. And then we're out here doing this, and it's like, we think we can't do it, but we have no choice. Which I think it was Tony Robbins that said, like, if you want to get to success, burn the boats.
Burn the ships.
Yeah. So, because you have no other way.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the same thing. So your frame of reference is changed so much. So I love that.
The do hard things.
Do hard things.
Not to sound cliche, but it puts things into perspective.
Absolutely.
It's doing these difficult things makes you realize that the minimalistic things outside, the petty little things that are upsetting you on a day-to-day basis is exactly that. It's petty. Go do something that pushes you outside your comfort zone.
I like it because doing this not only shows like yourself that you're capable, but your kids and just like everyone surrounding you. So it just elevates everybody around you because you give them like the hope of, oh, maybe I could do that someday, or I can overcome or push a little harder.
My kids are not allowed to do this.
But yeah, it just kind of elevates everyone around you by you elevating yourself.
Like, I agree a lot with what Greg says, so I don't want to repeat that. That's probably one of the biggest things I learned. But I think about, people are always asking me about the business that we built, like, what's one of the biggest tips you could give me, let's say. And I always tell them, I use a phrase that I heard one time, it's like, you have to make the decision, I'm going to get to the top of the mountain or I'm going to die on the side trying. And so I think about this trip, like to make it to the top, you have to make the decision, I'm going to get to the top. And it's going to be hard no matter what, but like we push through that pain and that to get there. But then I was thinking about, okay, we're at the top, now we got to get back down. And we've talked about that a little bit. But there's no other option. You have to get back. And at that point, it's not the top of the mountain anymore, but you have to get back to the car, or you're going to die trying. And like, I never thought we were going to die, but I thought it would get a lot worse than it currently was if we didn't make it to the car. So just that life lesson of, like, if you want to accomplish something in your life, you have to be fully committed to it. You got to have a team with you. You got to have a reason, to get there. And I kept, talking to Gabby about, kids need us to get back. Like, we have to get back. And so just having a reason, having a team, and knowing where you need to get to. And just, if you know that in life, then you have a general direction of what you need to do. Yeah, the power in teamwork, I echo all the things you guys have already touched on, but if I could highlight one other thing that I was thinking about is the power of team. Everyone in this group has strengths and weaknesses, and we all leaned on each other to make it through. There's no way I would have summited had Lacey not been there. I'm physically stronger. I can do things that she can't do, and there's things that but I got to that moment where I was facing my fear, and she coached me through that. And we all did that in one way or another throughout the day to get through this adventure together. And having that, just the fear that something could go wrong, like we were legitimately, like, it was a dangerous situation, and we were completely uncomfortable, but pressing on anyway. There's a lot of like grit and discipline and confidence that was built by having that exercise. And it was we'll always remember this day, and we will always be bonded. Our relationships are now all deeper. Like you mentioned earlier, we're all like a family now because we've experienced this harrowing experience together as a team. And I think that was very cool.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Biggest lesson for you?
Don't trust Scotty Hobbs.
Cut.
No, biggest lesson is just kind of taking the chance. Like, you got to push yourself outside the comfort zone and meet new people and trust them. I appreciate it. I think I told you, even in our switchback hike back, I was like, thank you for allowing me this opportunity, and you know, I would have never known to have done it had it not been for you reaching out to Jay. So thank you guys.
Yeah.
And thank you for your hospitality.
One more thing. We could have easily, this moment, I talk a lot about the hell yeahs in life. And when Scotty reached out to me, I was like instantly like, this is a hell yeah. But there's so much resistance, right? There's so many reasons not to do things. Got to buy a plane ticket. I got to figure out who's going to watch the dogs. Lacey's going to come with me. Like all of these obligations we have in life. But we cleared it, and we have this amazing experience. It could have been we could have completely blown it off and said we weren't going to make it. But we made the choice to make it because we knew it was going to be a life-changing experience. Whatever. I just felt like we needed to go and do it. And I think oftentimes people get caught up in the day-to-day and they miss out on opportunities where they could have had like a big life experience. And so when the hell yeahs come about in life, lean into it and just know that there's going to be, you may have to have some additional challenge to create the adventure or create that moment. It takes work. You may have to drive the distance. There's going to be like discomfort in creating that opportunity. We made it here, and that was uncomfortable, but we have this amazing experience. If that makes sense.
Hell yeah, it does.
A lot of times people get so caught up and they forgo, they miss out on life experiences. Yeah. This is something that we'll remember the rest of our life.
Yeah, most definitely.
So when there's an opportunity in front of you, take it.
Take it. Yep. So
on that note, what's the date for next year?
The annual.
The first annual Do Hard Things.
He said Tahiti this year.
I did on the way down. I was like, maybe instead of a hike, we should do like a week in Tahiti.
I'm down.
But give you guys an idea. Like 2 days ago, I was like, I'll never do that again. Like I see in my mind, like I would possibly do that.
It's only taking
like
2 days to change your reference.
For me, yes.
No, I'm still a no.
You're still a no?
No.
I'm back to a yes.
Which one? No, right?
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you for watching this episode of the Do Hard Things podcast. In the meantime, keep doing hard things.